Hello, everyone. It's Giselle here from Kids Yoga Stories, and I'm so excited to be here with Cassandra. Cassandra is our community coordinator at Kids Yoga Stories. Before she joined our team here, she was an educational assistant in the Edmonton Public Schools up in Alberta, Canada for 7 years, working with diverse needs children. Now, why I want to invite her to chat today is specifically about how she put together her mindfulness club at her school. And what I think is really interesting is we can talk about the different phases that Cassandra went through to put together this mindfulness club. Because what we're hearing, Cassandra, from our community all the time is not only how do we get started, but what does it actually look like? People have got kind of like these pie in the sky, these big ideas, and they're trying to understand where it is they step and where it could be, minding that gap from where they are now and where they want to be. So I'd love to hear sort of just in a quick little in a quick way, how did you get started? What was the thing that got you motivated to move forward?
Absolutely. And I totally understand those challenges. I think sometimes getting started is just the hardest part, just doing it. But for me, kind of the biggest driver for, I guess, the reason why I wanted to bring Mindfulness Club to my school was I kind of suffered my own mental health setbacks, and mindfulness and yoga was something that helped me in my life. And then I came across this amazing documentary called Room to Breathe. And it kind of really propelled me to think about, practicing mindfulness with kids. I had never really had thought too much about that before. But this documentary made me really think about, well, what could happen if we were starting to bring yoga and mindfulness to kids at a younger age, give them the strategies they need to cope with the challenges that they'll be experiencing later on in life, so that they don't have to, hit their low point and then make a change or learn how to practice yoga and mindfulness. So that was kind of the big driving force in my, my life in terms of bringing yoga and mindfulness to my school. And like many others, I also had my own sets of challenges to face, that's for sure.
Right. So it was that you had your own experiences with yoga and mindfulness, right? And then you saw this video, and I've seen it, it's so amazing, based in San Francisco, right? And the community there who brought mindfulness to their schools. So you saw a video that then you thought, imagine if we could bring this to the school and I could do that, right? So sort of talk us through what were sort of the obstacles? What did you have to get through, maybe even mentally or actually logistically, to get started?
For sure. So for me personally, as an educational assistant, I didn't really have my own scheduling. I didn't have my own time. None of those kinds of things were in my control, as well as I didn't really have my own classroom. Even though I kind of worked between a couple of classrooms, there wasn't a set space for me to bring yoga and mindfulness to my kids. And I had a goal to go beyond just the classroom. I really wanted to try to bring mindfulness to kids on a school-wide level. And so I had to really kind of figure out how I could get past those challenges. And at the time I was working specifically one-on-one with a student. And so she was a student with diverse needs, and her and I pretty much had the exact same schedule. And so I really had to get a lot of different people on my side in order to find the space, in order to find the time, in order to be able to work as a team to, get a little bit of a relief from this one-on-one child. But honestly, once I was able to kind of write it out and see all my challenges, it became a lot more easy to kind of attack them one by one. And I was super grateful for the support team that I had. They were able to help me get started, and I made it happen.
I love that, because what you're saying is, again, things we hear from the community all the time. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the space. 3 super top obstacles that people go through. But going back to what you were saying originally, you had this deep passion, right, to make a difference in the lives of children on a grander scale for all the children in your whole school, right? Instead of just the students you're working with individually. So I'm sure you were driven by that sort of why and purpose, that then, like you said, you wrote down, what are my obstacles, the time, space, money, and how am I going to, who can I speak to, and how can I bust through those obstacles, right? One by one.
Exactly. Reaching out to the community really helped. And while I had it all written down and I could see exactly all those challenges, I realized it was a lot easier for me to find the right people to help me with those. And it ended up being a huge success, and it was way more possible than I could have ever imagined just thinking about it in my head. And that actually reminds me of something that someone once told me when I was growing up is if you care enough about something, you just do it. And the logistics will kind of fall in place later. Everything will fall in place. And it really kind of happened with that mindfulness club.
Yes, exactly. If it's something beyond ourselves, right? So briefly talk us through those 3 phases and how you created that mindfulness club.
Absolutely. So phase 1 was kind of a test trial year. This was a year where I ran Mindfulness Club every single morning for about 15 minutes. And I would usually get about 1 or 2 kids from each class who would come to my mindfulness club. I was luckily given a classroom that was under renovations. That was kind of the space that was given. And like I said, I had a wonderful support team that was able to make this kind of a reality for me. And so in this kind of trial phase, we just tested out quite a few different mindfulness practices. We did breathing exercises, guided meditations, gratitude writing, mindful coloring. So we just kind of tested the waters. But the following year, we kind of realized that there were a few different obstacles, one being my school with a kind of low income and very trauma background. We had a lot of students who had attendance issues, or if they showed up, they weren't there first thing in the morning. So attendance for Mindfulness Club first thing in the morning was definitely an issue, which is why we decided to change Mindfulness Club to a recess club in the afternoons. And it ran Monday, Wednesday, Friday instead. And on those days, we created different themes out of them. So we had our Mindful Mondays, which was a lot of guided breathing and meditation, and Wind Down Wednesdays, which became kind of our activity days where we would do lots of mindful coloring, sharing circles, things like that. And then Friday was our Flexi Friday, and that was our most fun day. It was our yoga day, of course. And we got to do a variety of different things using a lot of the Kids Yoga Stories products. I was very grateful this year to have been given a new space in the music room, which included a smart board. So I utilized a lot of the digital products from Kids Yoga Stories in order to very easily bring my mindfulness club to life. And even though I had a new space that year, I didn't necessarily have a lot of storage. So the digital products were a blessing because all I really needed was a computer and a login to pretty much access it from any classroom in the school. Right. And then I guess we did have one last phase, and that phase was not something that we happened upon intentionally. It was when, or I guess in March 2020, when COVID had kind of shut us down. And so we moved Mindfulness Club online because there was a need in my school prior to COVID, but especially during COVID. We knew that these kids really needed mindfulness and yoga in their lives, in their homes. So we moved Mindfulness Club online using a Google site. I was able to keep the theme days and just posted a new activity every single day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for the kids to access at their own time in their own space. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful watching it come to life and getting those kids the mindfulness that they needed.
Right. I just love that. I love your story, Cassandra. I could hear it over and over again because I love the way you pivoted. Like every year you look back and reflected and thinking what worked, what didn't, how do we make this work better for the students, right? And you said that attendance was low, let's do a recess time. Now we're online, so I think that just goes to show that anything is possible. You just got to get started and then you can make changes and tweak it as you go along. I love that. So now you have to tell us, must have a story to share about one of your students who really had an impact, this Mindfulness Club.
Absolutely. So when we did the recess clubs, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I gained a core group of students who were just there at every single mindfulness. It was our own little mindful community that we kind of created. And I had a student in particular who was on the spectrum, and he attended pretty much every single day. And he was a student who I had started getting in grade 2, and he attended all the way until he was in grade 5. And he was one of the kids who was kind of in the forefront of my mind when we moved online. I knew that that change would have disrupted his schedule. And I figured out of I know a lot of the kids, but him especially, would really thrive and be needing this mindfulness club during COVID and during these weird, uncertain times. But on the very last day of school, our school was closing down. It was quite sad. It closed its doors, but on our very last day of school, it was just the staff there. We had said goodbye to our students the day before, and our staff had kind of made their way outside to have this COVID-friendly goodbye staff party. And as we were walking out the doors, I saw this student of mine and his twin brother, who didn't go to our school, but was also on the spectrum, and his mom. And they were standing there waiting, and he started to walk up to me. And it was kind of funny because he was in my class a couple times over those years, but this past year, he wasn't in my actual class. And I didn't see him regularly in Mindfulness Club because we were cohorting, of course, due to the regulations. But he was there waiting, and he started walking up to me, and he had a card in his hand, and he told me, Miss T, I've got something for you. And very odd, in a low-income school, you don't really get a lot of year-end gifts, especially not if this kid is not in your class.
Right.
But he handed me this card, and I opened it up, and it read, "Dear Miss T, thank you for teaching me to read and teaching me to do mindfulness."
Oh.
And I realized right then and there that that work, all the effort that I'd put in over those years was so worth it. And it obviously stuck with this child enough to help him and to be grateful and express his gratitude for that. And I looked back, and his mom was in tears too, because you could see, obviously, it made a difference, not just to her, or not just to him, but to their whole family and her. So that was something that really hit me in the feels and in the heart, and I'll take with and cherish forever.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What a great story. And if you'd known when you started the Mindfulness Club that you would have that experience, 3 or 4 years later, nothing would have stopped you, right? You wouldn't have worried about the time, the space, and the money and all those other obstacles. You would have just done it. It's
Exactly.
absolutely worth it to go through whatever you have to go through to affect the lives of children. I love that.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. There's lots more. We've got a blog post, and you've written also about how you created this. So we'll link that in this video for people to learn more information and looking to see which products or which materials you used for your Mindfulness Club as well. So while we finish up today, I'd love to hear, because you and I are a little bit of bookies together,
Yes,
what's your favorite book that you've been reading so far and why? I'd love to hear that.
Okay, so right now I am reading a book, and I've read books from this author a couple times before, or a few different books, but I'm currently reading Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. And oh my, it is something that, another one that's just kind of hitting home for me. I think for myself, and I'm sure many others, I do struggle with this, perfectionism, or maybe sometimes a little bit of that imposter syndrome. I feel like I should be, doing better, or doing something more. And this book is just kind of reining me in. And it's really an amazing book that just kind of shares about, the courage to like be your authentic self, and, flaws or no flaws, perfection or no, or imperfections, just to be your true self. And there's lots of courage in that. So I'm super grateful for reading this book right now, and I find it so valuable, as I do for many Brene Brown books.
Yes.
Yes. Have you read this book by any chance, Giselle?
I don't think I've read that one, but I think I've read I just got the Atlas of the Heart, and then I've read a few of them. Courage to Jump.
I know, I'm trying to remember.
Vulnerability. Anyway, I can't remember the names, but yeah, so brilliant. She's just amazing. And the HBO series of the Atlas of the Heart is amazing. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm a book reader, but in that case, watching that very series was incredible. So thanks for sharing that. That's great.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Again, reach out if you have any questions at all about Cassandra's Mindfulness Club. Hopefully that was helpful for you to kind of get that going in your schools. Again, we're at kidsyogastories.com. Thanks so much, everyone. See you later.
See you. Thank you.